I'm Julie Lopez, registered dietitian and chef with the Healthy Family Project. As you're aware, Healthy Family Project is a resource for dietitians and healthcare professionals providing resources and really great recipes to share with your audience to help promote healthier eating for all types of families. As you're aware, Healthy Family Project launches their Mission for Nutrition initiative every year, and we have wonderful sponsors who have been supporting us this year. So a big thank you to Yo Quiero, North Carolina Sweet Potatoes, USA Pears, Envy Apples, Schumann Farms, Watermelon Board, and Idaho Potatoes. One of my favorite resources that Healthy Family Project has is their What's in Season guide. So every month you can share with your audience the What's in Season for all things produce. So it can tell you about what apples are in season, pears, the squashes, everything that your consumers may need to help them shop in season. So it's just a really handy guide that you can share on social media, in your newsletter, hand it out as a print copy if you're in the grocery store, to really help those shoppers and consumers shop seasonally. We want to get people to add variety into their diet, and what's better than shopping seasonally? Not only is it going to be at their peak ripeness, all that beautiful produce, but then also each season they can start adding variety into their diet. One big thing for consumers is maybe their lack of resources or knowledge when it comes to culinary skills. So they might be purchasing the great produce and lean proteins and whole grains into their cart, but maybe they don't have the skills to cook it at that level that will make it taste so delicious, using different seasonings, different culinary techniques. So one simple technique going into this season is how to roast vegetables properly. You have your butternut squash, your sweet potatoes, your regular potatoes, your onions. I have some Brussels sprouts here too. And what happens is if we're not roasting properly, they're not going to come out this beautiful roasted caramelized flavor. So my one tip for you is, instead of just taking your sheet pan, putting on your vegetables and just going like this with your olive oil, you don't really know how much olive oil you're putting on, number one. And number two, it's not evenly being spread. Even if we kind of mix it around on our sheet pan, we're maybe over oiling or under oiling. Some pieces are going to be saturated in oil, some pieces might be bone dry. It is not going to cook evenly. So my big tip is to actually take a bowl, and you only need about 1 tablespoon of oil per sheet tray, and you just need to give it a nice big toss in your olive oil, add your seasoning, and then add it into your baking sheet. Because think about produce like broccoli or cauliflower. They have all those little florets. So you want to make sure the oil and the seasonings are getting within all those nooks and crannies. So a good toss in a bowl before putting it on your sheet pan will do the trick for you. Yes, you will also prevent over oiling your vegetables as well, so it will bake evenly. One last tip when it comes to roasting our vegetables. We want to make sure that we're not overcrowding our pan. I know we don't like dirty dishes, so use some foil or parchment paper on your baking sheet if you want to prevent mess, but utilize more than one baking sheet if you need to. What happens if you overcrowd all your veggies when you're roasting? What's happening in the oven, you're not gonna get the caramelization that you're looking for that adds that sweetness flavor. What's actually happening is, since they're crowded, they're steaming together. And steamed vegetables, great, but we're adding that extra layer of that roasting element to get that caramelization flavor. So we want that to work properly. So just some tips to share with your audience of how to roast vegetables properly. And may seem simple to you, but a tip could really help someone elevate their veg intake if they're roasting properly. When it comes to storing your produce, you want to make sure you're storing it properly. So I always like to tell my audience or customers in the store, think about how it's being stored in the grocery store. Is it refrigerated? Is it out? So kind of think about that way when you're putting away your groceries. Now, some of our produce is a little flexible when it comes to like our Envy apples or our USA pears here. So with those, you can store them out on your counter or you can store them in the fridge. If you store them in the fridge, they're going to be lasting a little bit longer. But if you want them to come riper faster, you can store them on your counter. Just be aware what you're storing them next to. Especially like an apple or a pear, they're going to ripen and give off some ethylene gas and at a much quicker rate. And if you have bananas hanging right over them, you just want to be aware that your bananas might ripen a little bit quicker. So you might want to just separate them if you don't want them ripening all at the same time, if you're not going to consume them as quickly as you think. A big hot topic is sustainability. We want to be utilizing all of our food, preventing food waste, especially in our own kitchens. Because what I see a lot of times too is when people are cooking, they're wasting a lot of the produce that they just bought, or they're not knowing how to utilize the scraps and turning them into something else. So especially when it comes to our vegetables, save all the scraps that come from your onion. Save all the peelings that come from carrots, ends of celery, your butternut squash, or any type of squash. And I like to keep a freezer bag in my freezer, and I'm slowly just building it and keep filling it up as I'm cooking. So say I use this onion, I'm gonna save the end, the scraps, that goes in. I just peeled the carrot, that goes in. And usually by the end of the month, I'll have a whole freezer bag full of scraps. What can you do with those scraps? You can easily turn them into a stock or a broth as a base for a soup. And you can also utilize skins of your potatoes. So for instance, I like to leave my skin on my potatoes because of the extra fiber, but some people like to peel them, but you can save the scraps of your peel and you can toss them in a little olive oil, salt and pepper, pop them in the oven, and you're going to have these little like skin chips. And they're so great, potato skin chips. They're crunchy, you can add them on top of salads, you can eat them on their own. It's just, again, how to utilize that waste and be sustainable in your own kitchen. And what we have here that I feel like is totally underutilized is a pickled watermelon rind. So after you cut your delicious watermelon, this rind usually ends up in the trash. But did you know you can pickle it? We have a really great recipe for you about how to pickle watermelon rinds, and this can stay in your fridge for a period of time because it is pickled. And how can you use it? So I like to use it anywhere I would use pickles per se. So I might put it on some salad, I might put it on a sandwich, you can eat it alone. So what I like about them is they're tangy, they're sweet, they're crunchy, and again, we're utilizing the whole watermelon now. It's not just going into the trash. So let's build a balance bowl. One of my favorite resources on Healthy Family Project is the build your own smoothie, build your own soup, build your own bowl. What I like about this is it divides things in categories so you can pick and choose. So for people who are pickier or have their own preferences, which is totally fine, it gives them that flexibility to choose your own adventure. And it adds variety or it adds more ideas for what they can put onto their plate. So I'm going to build a bowl utilizing all of our seasonal ingredients right now. And let's talk about this bowl to make it more exciting. So the base of our bowl is going to be kale. And I know what you're thinking, a dietitian, kale, always going hand in hand, but I just love it because it's such a robust leafy green, and the darker the leafy green, the more nutrient dense it will be. But any leafy green can really work. Or you can skip the leafy greens and just pile up the produce and turn that into a bowl. But when it comes to our kale, we need to give it a little TLC. So you might be using a dressing or some lemon juice or olive oil. I'm just going to add a touch of olive oil right on top. You can totally skip this. You can just use your fingers, but you want to massage it. Sounds silly, but I'm sure you maybe have heard of this before. But when it comes to our raw kale, we want to break down the fibers and to make it more delicate. Because has anyone ever had a kale salad and they're just chewing and chewing and chewing? Well, that's because it wasn't given that TLC that it deserves. So giving it a little massage with olive oil, with some lemon juice, or just using your fingers, it helps break down that cell wall to help it become a little bit more tender. And as you can see here, look how much brighter that color got just by massaging it. When it comes to any salad or bowl, we want to think about variety and texture. So we have our raw element here. You can add some other raw vegetables or fruit on here, but I like to add cooked elements as well. So I used our roasting technique to roast some sweet potatoes and some regular potatoes as well. And I'm just going to start layering the flavors here. And what's fun about this recipe is that as you're building this bowl, these could have easily been leftovers from the night before. We have some roasted Brussels sprouts here. So I'm looking for lots of color and textures. And then I have my roasted sweet Vidalia onions. These are delicious. You can add them raw. I like them a little roasted. You can caramelize them, whatever really floats your boat. And to make this more of a robust salad, I like to add a whole grain. So this is a combination of quinoa and brown rice. So that goes on. So it has a little bit more staying power. So lots of fiber happening already into our dish, but now we are going to add some carbohydrates that are coming in the form of our starchier vegetables and now a whole grain. And instead of adding croutons, we're going to add some healthy fats. So I have some just chopped pecans over here. And this is going to add our crunch element. So as you see, I already added the olive oil to our kale to massage it a little bit. And this has so many other flavors going on and some moisture coming from the roasted veg that I'm not even needing a dressing because I'm just going to put a dollop of a chunky guacamole right on top. And this is going to actually act as part of our dressing as well. Because once everything kind of mashes and molds all together, you won't even miss a dressing. So again, this is to show variety. This is to show how to utilize the resources at Healthy Family Project. And you can build this delicious salad or power bowl or whatever you would like to call it. But it gives your consumers and your audience more variety and to choose your own adventure when it comes to healthier eating. So again, thank you to our sponsors who are supporting us at Mission for Nutrition. And always a big thank you for Healthy Family Project providing all these wonderful resources to the dietitians and healthcare professionals to promote nutrition education through food that we're eating. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us on social media, email, download all these really great resources. And if you're looking for a resource, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We will create it for you. So we would love to thank you for participating in Mission for Nutrition, and we love to continue to see how you're utilizing all of the resources that we provide. So keep up the great work, and thanks again for being part of Mission for Nutrition with the Healthy Family Project.